I was just rereading some of the older chapters, and it hit me sometimes we all get a little too trusting. We look at the manga pages and take everything at face value, but Kishimoto and Aikimoto, they are absolute masters of hiding things in plain sight. Today I want to dive into what might be the biggest deception in the entire history of Boruto, and honestly, most people probably missed it entirely. But before we get into the meat of it, if you could do me a huge favor and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, it would mean the world. I'm trying to reach a goal of 10K subscribers, and I'm putting out videos every single day so you've always got something fresh to watch. Alright, let's get back into the discussion. Let's get straight to the point without any fluff. Momoshiki Otsutsuki is basically the biggest underdog, or more accurately, the biggest L-taker in the Naruto universe. I know, hear me out. Boruto actually outplayed him way back in chapter 25, and a lot of people didn't even realize it. I can hear you now. What are you talking about? They have a deal. Momoshiki reads his thoughts, and he can see the future. But here's the thing, that deal they made in chapter 25 of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, it wasn't an act of desperation, it was a perfectly executed trap. And the coolest part is that Boruto used Momoshiki's own greatest weapon against him, his massive ego. The issue is that Momoshiki just sees Boruto as a temporary vessel, a biological object that's eventually going to dissolve. But Boruto, training with Koji and Sasuke, learned something way more important than just new moves. He learned the art of hiding the truth right inside the truth itself. In chapter 25, Boruto offers Momoshiki a deal. Help me take down Jura, and I'll give you everything. Sounds like he's giving up, right? Well, if you look at the original text, it gets way more interesting. Japanese has these subtle nuances that sometimes get lost in translation, but that's where the real secret is hiding. When we read manga, we usually just breeze through the text bubbles without thinking about the kanji. But fans over on Reddit did a super deep dive into this specific phrase. Boruto uses the term shintai when he talks about handing over his body. In Japanese legal and philosophical terms, that word specifically refers to the physical shell, just the biological vessel. It's like renting out an empty apartment but telling the tenant they aren't allowed to touch anything in your personal safe. On the flip side, there's the word karada, which implies the whole person, the unity of spirit and flesh. Boruto says it in a way where Momoshiki hears, "my whole being," but technically, in the contract of reality, he's only giving up the physical shell. It's honestly brilliant. And this is where it gets really good. If we just look at this as a normal conversation between a desperate hero and the monster inside him, we're only seeing the surface. But if we look at it as a legally precise act, like a strategic word game, the whole picture changes. Boruto isn't just asking for help. He's setting the terms. He's defining the boundaries. He's setting the access limits. This isn't a cry for help, it's a protocol. Think about it logically. If Momoshiki really sees the future like he says he does, why would he even agree to this? Why doesn't he see the trap? The answer might be simpler than we think. It's because he can only see other people's futures, not his own. And since he and Boruto are now essentially one, he can't see their shared future. Right now, Momoshiki is just trusting him based on Boruto's current state of mind. This brings us to the key point. Momoshiki has always underestimated humans. He thinks they're primitive. Because of that, he doesn't expect them to have complex, multi-layered psychological strategies. He thinks in terms of power and dominance. Boruto, on the other hand, is thinking in terms of restrictions and conditions. It's the difference between a predator and a strategist. Momoshiki is used to invading, suppressing, and overriding. He's never been in a situation where the vessel itself is dictating how that invasion happens. He's convinced the process is irreversible and that karma is an absolute mechanism. But if you look at Boruto's face in chapter 25, there's no panic in his eyes. He's cold. That's not the face of someone giving up. That's the face of someone who's already made a choice and is just waiting for the opponent to make their move. The scariest thing for Momoshiki isn't even the legal loophole. It's that he might be dealing with humans who aren't afraid of him anymore, but are actually using him. If that's the case, chapter 25 wasn't about Boruto being saved. It was the beginning of Momoshiki's downfall. Momoshiki, being a spiritual entity, wants control over Boruto's will, but Boruto has locked his will in a safe that the Otsutsuki doesn't have the key to. Imagine offering someone your car but forgetting to mention the steering wheel is locked and you're the only one with the keys. Momoshiki happily jumps into the driver's seat, hits the gas, and the car doesn't budge. That's the situation this fallen god has found himself in. But what if I told you another real clue was given to us back in the story about Minato? To understand how Boruto plans to hold Momoshiki back, we have to look at the past. Remember Kishimoto's one-shot about Minato Namikaze? It's called Naruto, the Whorl within the spiral. I don't think that title was an accident. It ties directly into the title to Blue Vortex. If you look deeper into the symbolism, it's obvious that the whorl within the spiral isn't just a poetic phrase, it's a formula. A whorl inside a spiral is a structure where an outer flow of energy is held in place by an inner stabilizer. The spiral is the movement, the whorl is the fixed center. Applying that to Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, we get two spirals spinning at the same time. Two vortexes, two forces, two consciousnesses in one body. But what makes a vortex destructive? A lack of a center. If there's no anchor, the energy just tears everything apart. That's exactly why the Uzumaki were always the masters of sealing. They didn't destroy power, they structured it. In Minato's story, we saw that the spiral is creative power, while the whorl, the Uzumaki, is what stabilizes that power. Minato didn't just develop the Rasengan to hit enemies. He created it as a technique inspired by the tailed beast bomb to protect what he loved. Now look at Boruto. His Rasengan Uzuhiko is literally a vortex. If Minato's spiral was about creating balance, Boruto's vortex is a force that absorbs and neutralizes. Boruto took his grandfather's legacy and leveled it up to a planetary scale. It's not just a move anymore, it's a philosophy. I'm not fighting the flow, I'm becoming part of it. The connection between Minato and Kushina and Boruto and Himawari is incredible. Kushina was the vessel for Kurama, and now Himawari is connected to him too. But Boruto is the one who has to contain a new beast in the form of Momoshiki. The Minato manga put a huge emphasis on the Uzumaki clan's abilities. It's not just about having a lot of chakra, it's an innate understanding of Fuinjutsu, sealing jutsu. This is the secret Momoshiki missed because of his pride. Boruto isn't just Naruto's son. He's the heir to the people who have been sealing away gods forever. Remember the first Hokage's crystal necklace that Naruto used to wear? In the fight with Pain, we saw how that item helped Naruto talk to Minato and stopped Kurama from fully breaking out. Uzumaki often used physical anchors to control spiritual forces like the masks in the Reaper Mask storage temple. And Boruto has an item like that too, but it's not a necklace. Let's talk about Boruto's sword. It's not just some leftover weapon from Sasuke. Sumire, using blueprints from Kashin Koji, modified it in a very specific, secret way. We've already been given a big hint. This sword drains the chakra of anyone who isn't registered in its system. It's genius. Boruto and Momoshiki have different chakra signatures. Even though Boruto is 100% Otsutsuki biologically, his spiritual footprint is still unique. I think as soon as Momoshiki tries to take full control and picks up that sword, the weapon will recognize him as a stranger and start forcefully draining the Otsutsuki chakra, activating a special technique. This changes everything we knew about the Uzumaki clan, because now the power of seals is combined with scientific ninja tools. The way I see it, once that difference in signatures hits a critical point, the sword turns into a vacuum for divine energy. Momoshiki wanted to use Boruto as a tool, but he's going to end up being the battery for this sword before getting locked away in an Uzumaki sealing cage. Boruto is going to let Momoshiki manifest in the fight against Jura. It seems dangerous, but that's actually when the trap snaps shut. Using Uzumaki sealing techniques boosted by technology, Boruto will block Momoshiki's access to his own memories. The god will only see what Boruto allows him to see. He'll fight thinking he's the one in charge, but he'll actually be trapped in a narrow hallway of his own ego. But how is Boruto hiding this plan from the guy living in his head? That's where Kashin Koji comes in. We know Koji has the ability to see different futures. I'm almost certain Koji intentionally didn't tell Boruto the whole truth. He gave him the blueprints and the instructions, but hid the final goal. Because if Boruto doesn't know about the trap, then Momoshiki, who reads his thoughts, won't know either. Kashin Koji is playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers, and his most important piece is Boruto's own ignorance. This is a level of strategy fans rarely talk about. Koji isn't just a mentor, he's the variable outside of Momoshiki's equation. He understands a simple fact. Any info in Boruto's head is automatically available to Momoshiki. So the best way to hide a plan is to not tell the person carrying it out. It's the classic blind spot technique. Boruto genuinely believes he's making a massive sacrifice by making a deal with Momoshiki. His fear and desperation are real, and that sincerity is exactly what convinces Momoshiki that he's won. It's like the observer effect in quantum physics. The system changes when it's being watched. Momoshiki is the observer inside Boruto's mind. That means the plan has to exist in a state of quantum uncertainty until the very moment it's activated. Following that logic, Momoshiki is constantly watching, but he doesn't realize he's part of the experiment. He thinks he's the researcher analyzing his host, calculating futures, and weighing probabilities. But really, he's locked inside a system where he doesn't set the rules. It reminds me of the mirror paradox. You look at your reflection and think you're in control, but the reflection only shows you what you choose to show it. If Boruto honestly believes he's taking a risk, Momoshiki sees risk. If Boruto is convinced there's no other way, Momoshiki sees desperation. And if Koji doesn't give even a tiny hint that he's pulling the strings, Boruto doesn't even think to ask. That's multi-layered camouflage. If my theory is right, the final scene won't just be flashy. The moment Momoshiki thinks he's calculated everything, he'll hit variables that weren't in his equation. The human ability to hide true intent, and a cold calculation for the greater good. Just think about the irony. Momoshiki always called humans lower life forms, but it's the human capacity for self-sacrifice, the power of an ancient clan, and the technological genius of the shinobi world that will become his cage. This isn't just winning a battle, it's the total moral destruction of the character. When the dust settles, Momoshiki will realize the horrible truth. He's no longer a parasite who can call the shots. He's a tool, and his ego is going to be crushed. Imagine a proud god forced to lose his power and freedom through a sword, unable to even speak without his host's permission. Momoshiki is going to realize pretty soon that he's trapped, and there's no going back. The deal won't be broken because Boruto violated it, but because Momoshiki couldn't account for outside interference from Koji. And of course, that legal loophole with the word Shintai is going to work perfectly. Boruto will stay himself, keeping his will, his feelings, and his friends, while Momoshiki becomes just another gadget in the arsenal of a new generation of shinobi. It's a perfect full circle for the story. Naruto befriended Kurama, turning hatred into cooperation. Boruto, dealing with a creature that is fundamentally incapable of friendship, chooses a different path, the path of cold, calculated control. It's harsher, but in the world of Blue Vortex, you can't do it any other way. So what's next? I think we're in for a scene that's going to make every fan's jaw drop. At the most critical moment in the fight with Jura, when Momoshiki is sure of his victory and starts to take over Boruto, the sword is just going to shut him down. The end of this deal is going to make you re-examine the beginning of the whole manga and realize that every single step Boruto took was calculated. The parallels with Minato and Kushina will become even clearer. Just like Minato sealed Kurama, Boruto has sealed a god, turning him into a part of his own power. But while Minato had to die to do it, Boruto is going to find a way to survive. Honestly, I love this theory because it makes the Boruto plot so much deeper. It's not just a story about who can hit harder anymore. It's a story about cunning, about the legacy of clans, and how shinobi can tame even divine power. But what do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I read everything, and I'm super curious to discuss this with you. And of course, if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that hype button. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.